That is the best thing, sir. So now, Ravi, now please record the class. Is it
Yeah,
okay? So
I
let's do
think
it.
it's now
Thank you.
recording.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, yesterday we have discussed in the previous class the architecture. In the senses, I have not gone through completely. I have gone through what is the first part. I have gone through the instance. What is it? Oh, this document is big. Just a minute. Huh? Yeah. So now what we do in the census, first of all, we create in Oracle. First of all, what we have created the first thing yesterday we have clearly explained you about what is the meaning of Oracle instance. And then what is this instance? When it starts the instance in the no mode. This is the first case that we have done. When the instance will be started in the no mode, how it reads it. It reads the P file or SP file from the Oracle home/DBS. Okay. Then if you have a P file or SP file, but it gives a preference, highest preference will be given to SP file itself. Is it okay? It reads the SP file and then it will be allocating, it will be checking out what are the memory structures that you have described in the P file. So what are the memory structures in the senses? What is the meaning of instance in the senses? You will be writing the people call it as a system global area or and what you call it as? You call it as an Oracle background process. Simple thing. In the Oracle background process in the system global area, in the mandatory process, what are the things will be started? You know that you have a parameter called shared pool, which is that you specify in the P file shared underscore. If it is 9 or 10G, the people mention it out manually like this, shared underscore pool underscore size. And the second thing that you specify is so database buffer cache. You specify clearly there. And the thing is cache underscore, you mention it out in the cache underscore size. This is the thing that you do it. And the third thing that you do is you clearly mention it out as a redo log buffer. This is the first thing that we need to do in the P file. You need to write it in the Oracle. But what you do, because an ASMM concept has been come up in the Oracle, so in the Oracle 10G onwards, so you can easily mention it out. Instead of writing these three mandatory parameters, you write a parameter called sg underscore target in the P file, and automatically you invoke this three mandatory parameters instead of you can write it individually, but you won't write it. That's the reason we are discussing about in the previous two classes. And you will be mentioning it out one more parameter, that is nothing but sj underscore max underscore size. So you can give nearly now 300 MB in the census, 303 GB. You can easily calculate it. Is it correct or not? And in the simultaneously, what you start here, you start the background process of system monitor, and you start the process of you process with the process monitor, and you start with the database writer, and we start up with the LogWriter, and which is the most important thing in the background process, the checkpoint. So these are the things will be started in the instance in the no mode, and then with the help of this instance, what happens in the Oracle database in the census, you will be going with the database is in the no mode stage. The allocation has been done, the memory structures and the background process has been started by reading the P file or SP file. Then what is the position right now after starting the instance? It has to point to one and only one instance. Is it correct or not? It has to point to only one and only one instance. In the senses, it can open one and only one instance. How it can open one and only one instance? So you need to, it cannot, it has to be open. The database has to be opened in the senses. See, right now that what will happen? So the database has to be mounted. How the database has to be mounted in the second state? If the database has to be mounted, you should have a control file for this particular database, and then the database will be mounted, and then what happens? The database will be opened. Is it okay? So then the database will be opened where in the senses in the open state. So the database will be opened in the open state. Now when the database will be opened, so now the users are ready for the transactions of this particular database. So when the database is opened, what you can see in the database, yesterday we have discussed about in the database, what are the things when the database will be opened. You have you have the table spaces. What are the table spaces you have it? You have a thing called in the table spaces you have a system, and you have a table space called sysocs, and you have a table space called temporary, and you have a system, so yeah, undo table space we create in the Oracle database. Today we are going to do it, don't worry. So tomorrow we are going to do it, no problem. So first of all, system, sysocs, temporary, undo, and we are doing users. So for each and every table space, we have created the data files. Here we have prepared a control file for the database. During the mount stage itself, we have prepared a control file. But in the database, when the database will be opening, we are seeing the logical information of the database. How you are going to see, even database is a logical, and table spaces are also logical information that we are creating it. So we are seeing this 5 different table spaces, we are seeing it. Is it okay? Apart from this, what you're going to see in the senses, for these each and every table space, you will be having the data files, where your physical files will be occupied on the file system. If you use a file system, you're going to use a file system. If you're going to use ASM, you're going to use ASM. Is it okay? So these all the things will be stored on the disk. And the next thing what you have in the senses, we will be having up one more thing. We will be having the in here you'll have the redolog groups. What is this redolog groups? In the senses, in the redolog groups you have all the log files. You'll have the groups. Grouping in the senses, log files will be created in the Oracle database. So what are the thing? The database will be open. After the opening the database, you can see this table spaces. What is the table space? It consists of? It consists of base tables. It will be consisting of base tables. What are the base tables? How many base tables are there? Nearly right now, it contains, what it does contains the data dictionary views and the base tables. Totally how many you have in the census? In 11G release 2, you have 4096 tables, which are, you have n number of hidden tables. And who is the owner of the system table in the census? The system table owner is sys. Is it okay? System table owner is sys. Okay. And what are the tables you have? It $, tables are there, and also you have DBA underscore, user underscore, all underscore. These are the tables will be created, and each and every table is a read-only table. So that's the reason why as a DBA you hit a command called only select command. To be honest, up to now you cannot once you'll be creating a database as a DBA, you are only the way the option is you create only table spaces. Sorry, only the select query will work it out. Nothing is going to work it out from your side. Is it okay? And sysocs has been launched from Oracle 10G onwards. Is it clear? And to reduce the burden of Oracle has introduced a system auxiliary table space. This table space, why to reduce what kind of a burden it reduces in the senses for executing the performance tuning, especially for the performance tuning in the senses what you do. For example, like AWR, ADDM, how the indexes runs. Okay, so and especially the OEM is working on the sysox table space. And temporary is used for not for permanent storage. It is used for sorting operations of each and every user of the Oracle database. And you have one more thing which is nothing but undo table space for the image to store this information. But you have yesterday we were clearing that undo underscore retention policy that we have set to 900, which is nothing but the 15 minutes of time that we have set it up. And the user table spaces why we create for the users to store up. And what is the meaning of a redo log? What are the changes that are happening in the Oracle database? Each and every information is being recorded in the redo log files. These things we do in the Oracle database. And who creates this database? As a DBA, we are going to create a database. This is the thing that we are going to do in the thing. And the people ask you whether we have, if I created a database, whether I can create different versions of the database in a single machine. Yes, you can do it. The people does it also, because each and every database has, you can have a Oracle 10G in the same machine, you can have Oracle 11G also, you can have 12C also in the same server, in the same different locations, different paths. That's it. All the things will be updated in a file called oratab file. Obviously, we can easily create all the things. Is it okay? And after that, what we need to know in the sense is, first of all, here we are trying to explain you right now the architecture of the Oracle. So now what is the thing is, first of all, in the Oracle database, so how the architecture, if I want to show you the different types of architecture, so I want to show you the better, you can see the interactive diagrams and the interactive diagrams. So you can see the, now you can see this is the Oracle diagram that we can see here pretty well. Can you see right now what is the thing that we has been happened? Now can you see here, you have started the system global area. Can you see that what you have? I have in the shared pool, can you see please here the system global area, what are the mandatory things that I have specified it? You can see shared pool, and you can see the database buffer cache, and you can see the redo log buffer, and what are the optional things that you have? Large pool, Java pool, stream pool, and checkpoint queue, and the least recent used list. That is a different scenario. And you can see on the top YesMon, PMon, and on the bottom you can see the background process of it. Can you see right the database writer, and what you can see here, you can see the checkpoint, you can see the LogWriter, and on the bottom you can see when the database is created. Right now you can see the database and temporary files, database data files. Can you see right now I was clearly saying you system 01.dbf contains the data dictionary and must have the system and sysox table spaces when I create an Oracle database. This is the reason why. Okay, and you have the control files, and you have the online redo log files also, and you have separately archive redo log files. This is a different scenario. Is it okay? So now this is one of the diagram that we are right now in this present world right now. Is it okay? In 11G, this is 11G, but I will come back again here. But meanwhile, I want to go in a small diagram. In this small diagram, I want to explain a little bit of, because you need to know what happens, what is how the people, the database has been opened as a DBA. I have started the database. I'm a DBA, I have created a database, and I have started the database. And I have created some users also in the database. Now the users are trying to connect to the database. Okay, the users are trying to connect to the database, if the users are trying to connect to the database, how the users will be connecting to this database? Now can you see here, when if the database cannot, the users cannot directly contact to database. He needs to connect to the instance. Every user has to connect to the instance, not the database directly. So through the instance only the user can fetch the results from the database. Where you'll have the result? The result will be stored, the data will be stored in the physical data files. So I am retrieving the information from the physical data files. This is the thing that we do in the Oracle databases. For example, first of all, right now you have a thing called user process. What is the meaning of this users? Where this user process is going to generate. First of all, I have this database has a user called a user. Okay, some username called Karthik user. So right now he has a user. Now what happens is that in the senses he wants to connect to this particular instance. If he wants to connect to this instance, he cannot directly connect to it. So he will be installing a client software, or what kind of a client software he is going to install. In the senses he is going to install SQL developer or Toad, or else he is going to install the Oracle, the client software he is going to be installing on his machine. After installing it, then what you are going to do in the senses, he needs to prepare the listener. Sorry, I'm very sorry. Wrong statement has been given up. So he needs to prepare, the user has to prepare a TNS names. He don't know, and the end user doesn't know what are the TNS names. First of all, but how can he do? Because it will help by using the what it will be helping, but the SQL developer internally or Toad will be doing it. It prepares it internally. The people doesn't know at the background what is happening. But as a DBA, what I need to start? If the users want to connect to my database, I need to prepare for that particular database. I need to start a listener. So in the listener, what I'm going to mention it out in the senses, I'm going to give the properties like the listener name, okay, the instance name, where I have installed the Oracle software. For that particular database, I need to give a port number and what is the protocol I'm using it. The fifth protocol is a TCP IP and your host name. So these are the 5 things that I need to mention it on in my listener, and I'm going to, as a DBA, I'm going to start the listener. Once for every instance, you can have only one single listener. DBA has started the listener, LSNR CTL start, the listener has been started as a DBA. Once the database has been started the listener, so then the users will be connecting to the Oracle database. Even is in Africa also he can connect to the database, because if he knows the system IP address and he should be in a network, okay, the first point is. But then what, once he installs the SQL plus client software, he'll be providing the port number, the same credentials, all the credentials, whatever the thing that I have mentioned in my listener file, all the credentials will be mentioned, will be given to the user. Once he'll be as a user only, he's not going to connect to the DBA. Even DBAs also can connect it. You have limited privileges as a user. Once for every user, once he logs in up, he'll be having the user process will be connected to, if he wants to connect to it, for every user process, once the established connection has been happened, then what happens in the senses, who is responsible for this connection in the senses? You have a background process called YesMon. Sorry, I'm very sorry. You have a background process called ProcessMonitor for checking the network connections between the instance and the user. So how many processes are running up? So you need to check it out by using the ProcessMonitor. Okay, so when the user has been connected to the instance, he cannot connect to directly the instance. He will be connecting to the server process. If assume 10 users are there in the Oracle database, so he's connecting to this particular database. Right now 10 users creates will be having the 10 server process, and each server process has its own PGA, means whatever the commands that you have hit, all the things will be stored in the program global area. So in this each and everything, so for every user you will be having the server process. Once the connection has been established in this user, so automatically what you will do in the census, can you see here right now, can you see user process? This is a user process. He is connecting to database, has been started from the database point of view. He has started a listener. Okay, now DBA has started a listener, and then this user has to start up and he wants to connect it. Through the listener he is connecting to it, and through the listener he is connected to the server process. Can you see that? Through the server process he's been connected. From the server process he's been connected to the, so every server process has its own PGA. Can you see that? Every user has its own server process. Whatever the things that we'll be doing in the census, whatever the commands that he has been typed, he'll be connecting, and he'll be connecting to right now directly to whom in the census, in the database buffer cache, because he's going to check the details of the data whether it is being stored up. But once he's connected to it right now, once the instance has been connected, so he can retrieve any information from the instance right now. So if he wants to have any information, what he's going to do? First of all, what you need to understand here, assume right now a user has hit a statement. Now once the connection has been established, the user U1 is there. The U1 user wants to have the information what he has created in the tables or some schema objects, whatever the user wants to do it. Assume he has hit a statement called select star from EMP. Statement has been done from the database. So what happens in the census? Once the thing has been done, so where it goes? It goes into the, first of all, where it checks. It checks in the shared pool. What is the meaning of shared pool in the census? Shared pool consists of two things. What it is? One is a library cache and one is a data dictionary cache. What is this particular library cache in the census? Is completely shared pool consists of, you have a, literally, can you see this diagram? It may explain you a little bit of what is a shared pool. So you have mentioned this, all these things in the P file of it. Is it okay? So what it is in the shared pool, what you have in the census, what you store in the shared pool, you store your executed SQL statements and what are the most recently used data definitions. What is the meaning of your data definitions and what it is in the census? For example, right now you have hit a statement called $instance or DB_table spaces. These are the frequent commands that you hit as a DBA. Will already each and every table information will be the most recently used statements will be available in the shared pool. Not only SQL statements, the PL SQL statements also will be stored in the shared pool of every user's information will be stored in the shared pool. So in the shared pool, what you have a library cache and you have a data dictionary cache. So that's the reason why if I want to write the parameter in the P file, I need to mention it out by using shared_pool_size. This is the thing that I need to mention it out in my P file. So then this automatically it will be, we need to mention compulsory. This is a mandatory thing. Okay. So but instead of that, now I have hit a statement called select star from EMP. When I am retrieving the information from the instance, it will check. What it will be checking in the census, actually what happens, what is this thing in the census? It has a library cache and it has a data dictionary cache. In the library cache you have two phases. Again you have two phases. One is a shared SQL area, one is a shared PL SQL area. Two blocks are available. So whether I have a hit statement called an SQL statement, or whether I have a hit a statement called PL SQL statement. No, I have not hit a PL SQL block. I have a hit a SQL statement. When I also hit a SQL statement, whether it checks it out, whether this particular statement has been hit by this user, whether anybody has hit this statement, any previous users has been there this particular statement or not. If none of the things are there, if none of the user has been hit, for the first time this user has been hit the statement, then or the statement has not been hit by any other, then what happens in the census? It does, the parsing is done. Where the parsing is done in the census, it is done in the data dictionary cache. What it does, what kind of a parsing it does in the census? Oracle does a parsing in soft parsing and a hard parsing will be done here. What is the meaning of soft parsing and a hard parsing? Oracle has a simple thing. Already you have an execution plan. Already you have what is called a soft parsing, because now the statement is a brand new statement, to be honest. If the Oracle does right now the hard parsing, it prepares you the best execution plan. Who prepares you the best execution plan in the census? The hard parsing. How it in the census? First of all, it has to know the information where the statement is coming up, from which database files it is coming up. It has to know this thing. So it goes and checks it out where this data is there. How many tables are there? How many tables are using this thing? Whether it has any indexes, how many columns are there? How many users are accessing this table? What are the privileges you have for this particular table? And which are being used by this particular objects. These kind of an information will be done in the hard parsing. But once the hard parsing has been done, if the user has been hit the same statement, other user has been hit the same statement, then it doesn't do the hard parsing. So who does this hard parsing in the census? Only for the first time it does. Second time, if any other user has been hit, it will be doing a little bit of hard parsing, but it doesn't do completely each and every information of the table, because it does only the user and authentication will be done. It will be checking only the privileges, whether the user can be accessing or not. The statement prepares a best, because already the statement has been hit and it's been giving a best execution plan. Oracle has decided it. Now it will be fetching from this, where who's going to fetch it the data. Once the statement has been prepared an execution plan, then it fetches the data from, who's going to fetch the data? The server process. The server process fetches the data from the server process and places the data in the database buffer cache, where it prepares it. So that's the reason why now you see the thing here. You need to understand what is a database buffer cache. What is the meaning of database buffer cache in the census? It places who is going to fetch the data from, once the authentication has been done, once the parsing has been done, the statement has already pinned in the library cache right now in the SQL block. Once the thing has been done, so who prepares in the census, and it stores all the copies that you have been retrieved from the data files. The server process fetches the data from the data files and store the copies of all the data blocks that have been retrieved from the data files. Now another user has been come up, some P1 user has been come up. Now he has hit the same statement, select star from EMP. Now what happens in the census? It doesn't do, because it checks it out, where in the shared SQL area it checks it out whether the statement is available or not. Yes, the statement is available. Then it doesn't do the parsing. Complete parsing has not to be done, but it has to check merely whether he has the privileges, whether he can access it or not. That's it. Okay, because already the data is there in the database buffer cache. No need to bring, no need to fetch the data from the physical data files. It is been directly, you can give the answer to the user. Is it okay? N number of the things, the cycles has not to be the number of, it will be reducing the IO of the things. Okay, so then what happens in the sense is, so right now you will be having up so this, it will be preparing the best execution plan. After that, what happens in the sense is, now it fetches the data from the, doesn't do fetching it all the data, it is being placed up in the database buffer cache. It will be giving directly from the data from the database buffer cache. Now what happens now as a user, what you have done in the sense is, now you have manipulated the data. Assume you have decided it, now you want to manipulate the data. Now you have done an insert or update or something else you have done as a DBA or the user, sorry not DBA, as a user you have done manipulated the data of the table in the database. So where you're going to do directly, whether you're going to do directly on the data of Oracle data files, no. You're going to do the data changes whichever the where the user is doing, you're going to perform on the this database buffer cache. Can you see this? These are the blocks. Can you see the which are the blocks which are filled blocks? Means you are retrieved from the data files, are placed in this thing. Right now what happens in the sense is, you have modified the data, you have inserted, previously you have got 10 rows, now you have inserted 100 rows in this table. Right now it is happening on the database buffer cache. So whatever the modified rows are there, the people call it as, what it is called in the sense is, it is called as dirty buffers when you have inserted or updated. But what is the meaning of a dirty buffer? You have made the transactions in the table, it is not yet committed. It's called a dirty buffer in Oracle. So can you see here what is writing? Who is writing? Which background process is writing? Database writer is writing. Assume you have given a commit. As a DBA, you have given a commit. Then or as a normal thing, when dirty buffers from buffer cache to data files, who's going to write it? A background process called a database writer is writing into physical data files. To see clearly, I can show you one more diagram. Can you see here right now what it is doing? The database buffer cache, when you have a dirty buffers, when a user has been given a commit, then who is going to write? A background process called database writer will be writing the data into the data files. This is the thing that is going to happen in the Oracle database. Here simultaneously, assume the user, do you think that the database writer is writing first to write the data into the data files? No, the answer is no. We clearly say that if you need to know this thing, who is going to write it? Before knowing it, you need to know one thing, what it is, redolog buffer. What is the meaning of this redolog buffer in the sense is, here what you have, whatever the dirty buffers are there in it, it will be whatever the changes in each and every change in the database buffer cache, each and every record will be recording in the redolog buffers or redolog groups. In this redolog group, what happens right now? The LogWriter writes the log buffers out to the redologs. In the sense, right now you can see here, if you see the background process right now, in the background process list, can you see here what is happening? The last point, if you see very clearly, when it is writing, before the database writer writes, the main role of another memory structure that you need to understand is redolog buffer. That is the main point. Whatever each and every changes are happening, it will be recording in the redolog buffer. What is the main purpose? Assume now your database has been crashed. If I want to recover my database, where I need to recover it? From where I need to recover it? I need to recover from the redolog files. Where? From the redolog files, not from the redolog files, from archive redolog files. To store this information, that's the reason why what it will do in the sense is it will be writing from the redolog buffer before the database writer writes into data files. The log writer, what is the role of a log writer? Whatever the data is there in the redolog buffer, the log writer writes into redolog files, into the redolog group, one of the group. When the redolog group is filled, automatically if the database is in archive log mode, it will be throwing the data into the archiver. An optional background process will be writing into the archive redolog files. This is a thing will happen in the redolog files. So if the database has been, even the data you have lost your data files, control files and the redolog files, I can fetch my data because I'll be applying the data has not yet been committed, but it is there in the archive logs. I can recover my database. This is a thing that I can do in my Oracle database, which is an archiver, which is an optional background process that I have mentioned in the optional background process list. This is an optional background process. So apart from this, see right now what is happening. So from the redolog buffer, the log writer is writing into redolog files, online redolog files. And from the online redolog files, see, can you see here? It is archiver. It is writing into the archives. And you can have a duplicate archive logs that you do in the data guard. Is it okay? So that is the thing. So the thing is, the main thing is, once you need to understand for the database writer and this log writer. So what is the role of a database writer? Whatever the committed data is there, it has to write into the physical data files. And whatever the log writer, what is the meaning of a log writer? Whatever the data is which is available in the redolog group, it has to write into redolog files. If the database is in archive log mode, it throws into the archive log destination. This is the thing. But who is going to monitor it? This is the main important thing that you need to know. You can see the point, the meaning of is a checkpoint. What is the meaning of checkpoint in the sense is writes the checkpoint information to the control files and data file headers. What does it mean in the sense is, see, you are updating the data files. You are updating this log writer is updating online redolog files, but who is updating this control files in the database? Who is going to monitor it? Because in the database, at least you should have control files, multiplexing the control files. If first, for example, if you don't have a control file, then the database could not be mounted at all, and the database will not be open. To synchronize this database, the role of the instance, what does it in the sense is, the checkpoint, when frequently checkpoints will be happening in the Oracle. Why? To update the control file. How it updates? Once the DB writer, it tells the log writer to write the data into the redolog files, and it will be updating into the archive logs. So these information will be written in the checkpoint will be writing into the control files of your Oracle database. And simultaneously, when the checkpoint right now, what it tells the database writer to update all the information to the data files headers, and this header information will be how many table spaces are there, how many data files are there in data files, how many blocks have been filled, that will be known by your data header files. Those information will be written into the control file of your database, because it has to synchronize. The synchronizing will be happening only by the control file, which will be, without a control file, the database could not be opened. So every file, once the database is been allocated, it will be updating all the information. it will be signaling. This is the main thing. It has to update. Who has to update? Who's updating the checkpoint will be updating the control files and its data files also. This is the main thing. And the last two things that we need to discuss is which is the most important thing in the Oracle database is system monitor. What does it do in the senses? The system monitor in the sense, first of all, assume I want to take a instance recovery. You can see there clearly what is the meaning of instance recovery in the senses. Assume your database has been crashed. Now as a DBA, you need to recover your database. If you need to recover your database, you have done a backup. So you are going to restore your database. You are going to restore the database from what it is there, simple thing. You will be restoring the database and you'll be starting the instance in the mount stage. Now you perform a recovery in the mount stage. When you perform the recovery in the mount stage as a DBA, you may recover, you may not recover. Whether any type of a backup, in the sense is whether it can be a complete recovery or whether it belongs to an incomplete recovery. These are the two cases you will be having up. Complete recovery is nothing but at that time who's going to help it during the recovery, who's going to monitor your instance in the senses, system monitor. So each and every instance will be completely monitored by system monitor. This is the first thing. So right now once I am recover, it will be helping. What it is in the senses, you have two cases. One is complete recovery in the senses, it is called rolls forward. Incomplete recovery in the senses, it is called rolls backward. Because in rolls forward you can get each and every transaction of the database, whereas in incomplete recovery you can miss some of the transactions in the database, but still the database has to be opened because whatever the data you lost it, until cancel you're going to give means up to that point you'll be recovering it and then you're trying to open the database. You're going to open the database during the recovery procedures. But here you have not lost any type of data in the rolls forward. In the rolls backward, you may lose some data. The control file has to be opened. The database has to be opened. The control file will open the database. So we will be hitting the incomplete recovery commands and then we'll try to open the database. So who has been dealing not only by recovery process, the SysMon is going to do it, but it still checks the health check of the instance every time. Who is going to check the health of the instance in the senses? System monitor is going to check whether my instance is running properly or not. Whether I need to have my instance to be recovered in the senses, I need to apply from the buffers, the memory buffers that you have allocated on the instance. Is it okay? So these all these things that will be done by and monitor. That's the reason why the people, when you check the instance, how you're going to check the instance? Either you are going to check the process monitor, whether that instance is running or not, or you're going to check the SMon. Is it okay? So, and the last thing that we are going with the process monitor. Assume now I want to go a scenario right now. Now two users are there. Now the user has been connected. Can you see this thing? I was starting at the starting stage only. I've told you what it is. The user, every user has its own PGA. Is it correct or not? Every server process has its own PGA. Whether you are connected in the system or not, how will be knowing up? You tell that we have a listener and the TNS names. Is it correct or not? So when the instance is running, if the users, you'll be checking up the ps-ef grep ora underscore. Why you do this thing? Whether the each and every process of pmon, the process of the each and every user are connected to the instance or not. If the thing have been failed up, again the user starts connecting from the SQL developer, because the reconnecting thing will be checked and monitored by the process. How many processes have been there for these users in the instance will be monitored by the process monitor of the Oracle database. And these are the things of the Oracle architecture. If you have any questions, kindly let me know, please. Anyone? Yeah. Any questions are there? Please kindly. And please stop the recording, please.